Okay, the recording, I've started recording the session. I would like to start off by thanking all our attendees for taking time to join us. But most importantly, we would also like to thank our facilitator for your effort with preparing and facilitating this session. But before introducing our facilitator to you, I would like to go over some housekeeping rules and important information. So for the housekeeping rules, if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to raise your hand if you would like to speak, or type your question in the chat box. I'll make sure to notify the presenter to address it. The session is recorded, as I have alluded to earlier, and the presentation slides will be requested from the presenter. Both the recording and the slides will be uploaded to our Moodle communities by the end of the week. A feedback survey will also be sent during the session on the chat section. Would like to please request for you to fill this out for us to gain insight on whether this workshop was useful and how we can improve in the future, as well as to provide kind words to the facilitator for their hard work. This will also be used for the facilitators and RRCD's reporting. And also by filling out the survey, this ensures that you receive a certificate of attendance. Allow me to introduce our facilitator for this section. For this session, Dr. Taminda Ko. I'll read the bio in your hearing. Dr. Ko is a political anthropologist with a specialization in sports. Her research focuses on the sporting lives of working people in Southern Africa. She joined the Department of Anthropology and Development Studies at UJ as a senior lecturer in anthropology in June 2024. Anthropological themes that animate her research, writing, and teaching include subalternate development, agrarian labor, youth, gambling, violence, play, and personhood. Social history grounds her analytical work. She has conducted research fieldwork in the Cape Winelands in Western Cape, in Sterkspruit, rural Eastern Cape, and Bloemfontein, Free State. She's broadly interested in everyday forms and workings of power and popular culture in and across Africa. Without any further activity, Dr. Ko, if you can allow me to hand over to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, may I share my slides? Is that
sure?
okay?
You may. Let me stop sharing and you may share your slides.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Well, after that wonderful introduction, I don't think I need to kind of introduce myself, but welcome today. I would like this session to be a bit more interactive, so it can speak to your personal situation where you are at. Before I start, or I have started really, but I would like to know, are there any research supervisors in attendance? I ask because the presentation is really directed towards the students. And of course, welcome if there are any research supervisors to feel free to add or delete or kind of share their experiences of supervision. But please know that the presentation is organized around students about looking in supervision, research supervision relations, or looking to find a supervisor. I see a hand raised.
Doc,
Oh,
Doc, may I interrupt you? I see
yes,
a hand. I see a hand from Tanusha. Tanusha, you may ask if you have a question, or you may say what you want to say. Unmute yourself. I have allowed you to unmute
Okay.
yourself and talk. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I am Professor Tanusha Raniga. I'm with the Department of Social Work. So yes, I'm here as a supervisor.
Thank you,
To
Prof.
both masters and PhD students.
Fantastic.
And I have
Thank you.
two
Thank you for
postdoctoral.
sharing.
Sure, thank you. It's always good to learn and to improve relationships as well. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Prof.
Thank you for letting me know. I will ask you for some scenarios and your experiences as we go. I'm really hoping this is more interactive than just me speaking or just the presentation. I also want to share that a lot of what I share is from my experience of both supervising and being supervised. I am based in anthropology, so my examples will be more from social sciences. So all those from physical sciences or engineering subjects, disciplines which are more lab-based or very different from that of mine, please give me your input and tell me how supervisor-student relations are different or might be different in that context, or affirm that, yeah, we're talking more or less similar kind of relationships. Ultimately, we are talking about human relationships. Right. But it is important to bear in mind we are talking about human relationships, but this is a professional relationship, and that is really important to understand or bear in mind. It is a professional relationship. It's not a personal relationship, and I'll elaborate on that more. Oops. Okay. Yeah. Are you actually seeing the small strip of presenters on your screen as well? I'm somehow unable to minimize it. May I ask? Does everyone just see my slides, or do they also see the list of presenters alongside?
We see your slides, Doc.
Okay, no, not the list of presenters. That's just my side, which is great because I don't want that to disrupt the slides. Okay, great. So again, the big question is what makes for a good research supervision relationship. Before I start, how many, apart from the supervisor, so this question is not directed at supervisors at the moment, what level of research are we, or what degree are we studying? So if you are, just give me a sense of, do I have any honors students here? Just raise your hand so I know. You don't have to say very much, just to get a sense of how many. Okay, no honor students. Then do we have master? Oh, there's one honor student. Great. Okay, good. The honors in my head is the first time you're going to be doing your independent research, which slightly changes the dynamics, which I'm going to focus on, but more or less you're still in a human relationship which you have to negotiate. How many masters and how many PhDs? Oh, do I see two? No, okay, these are masters. Masters, okay, very good. Yeah. Okay, then hand just comes off, so it changes my count. Okay, but I'm looking at most of us are either masters or PhDs. And in your own time, just type your disciplines. This is when we get into discussions, when I take it off, just which discipline you're based in, so or studying from. So again, gives me a sense of how many, say, social science, humanities versus how many hard sciences, engineering, and those kind of disciplines. Just in your own time. There's no rush about that. How many present today already have supervisors or have experience being supervised?
Dr. Ko,
Yeah. Oops.
may
Yes.
I stop you for a moment? There are a number
Yes.
participants who are saying that they cannot see your slides.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
so
Okay.
okay.
Well, it is sharing. Should I stop or just pause? I haven't actually spoken about anything specific. I'm just garnering information from my the participants. So yeah.
Okay, you can just stop for a moment so that I can allow maybe the participants to confirm if they can now see the slides. If they cannot, then you can leave the session, then rejoin the session.
Okay. Okay, let's give it.
Okay, so the participants, may you please just by a show of virtual hand confirm if you can see the slides and if you can continue with this session. George, you may leave the session and rejoin it.
Okay, while everybody's confirming that whether they can see or not see the slides, I will also ask you to just respond to this question. Just think of one thing, the most important thing that one imagines needed for a good supervision research supervision relationship. So just type in your chat, and I will check before moving on. Maybe I can stop sharing and then come back. Or the moderator, you can help me what kind of answers we have about that one thing, because I can't actually see I would have to unshare to see the chat. So
yes,
just a response to this. Okay, great. So could you tell me?
Doc. I would like to ask George if you can now see the slides that Dr. Ko is sharing. Okay, so if George can see, I'm thinking that everyone can now see the slides, and we are proceeding with the session. I hand over to you, Dr. Ko.
Thank you. Could you please read some of the answers to what is the one major thing that makes for a good research, a positive, productive research supervision relationship?
There is one answer from Pana Kandla. It's clear goals, clear communication, and good time management.
Good. Very good. Is that all we have so far?
Yes, it's only a response from one person.
Shall I give 30 seconds more? It's just one word I'm looking for. You don't have to write sentences. One thing, the most important thing. There are lots of things, right? The thing in your head you think is actually the most important to have a productive, good, positive research supervision relationship. I can see the time, so I can look at the 30 seconds. As soon as they're up, I'll stop. I'll move to the next slide and we'll talk about what I think is the most important thing.
Dr. Ko, there's a response from Ms. Josiah. She says mutual respect. Then she has found alignment with your supervisor, Murangi, communication.
Communication is very, very important. Okay. Right, so that's my 30 seconds. I'm going to move and I'm going to say research. Your research topic. And that's why when I started, I said it is a professional relationship focused towards one task, conducting a piece of research, which you as scholars are interested in, or you're committed to, or however you arrive at that topic. But if your focus on your research is right, you can negotiate that supervision relationship and actually own your research. That's the key here, right? So as we think about, if you can prioritize the research, the focus, your topic, everything else tends to fall in place. And I also say that communication is really important. respect for each other is really important. All those are human aspects. But if your focus, your research, the centrality of, because it's your research career, is very clear, and there happens to be, which actually you'll be surprised how often they do happen, if the human relationship, the mutual respect or communication breaks down, your research focus, your command over your field is what's going to save that relationship, right? So if you're committed to your research, no matter what kind of ups and downs go through the relationship, or you have to change supervision, you know what you're doing. So yeah, do your research. I have some funny images. I hope you can take them with a pinch of salt. But I also think we remember better when we learn things with a sense of humor, right? Okay, so think about, all of you have a research topic, I suppose. If you don't, I mean, I would imagine that more for honor student, because this is the first time they will be doing independent research. They don't need to be totally committed to a topic. In my head, and it might be different from discipline to discipline, but how I understand honors research is this is your opportunity to practice conducting research. It's a training ground. You have no pressure to produce groundbreaking knowledge, which is, of course, if you're a PhD, you need to be doing something your knowledge, you have to be contributing something new to the existing pool of knowledge, right? So that's a completely two separate ends. With MAs, it's slightly different, because yes, we want you to show the mastery over whatever topic you research. The pressure to produce new knowledge is a lot less. See, it doesn't have to, the originality is not central to you achieving your degree, but mastery over conducting research does. That's really important. Whereas honors, you can treat it like a training ground, a practice ground. You have room, but what you really want to do is practice conducting independent research, right? So apart from honors, masters and PhDs, you should have a research topic, or a fair sense of the research field. I would say even before you choose supervisors. But I also want to be mindful that we don't arrive at research topics just because this is what we are passionate about and this is what to do. Sometimes we become part of big research teams where the research topic is set up for you. So this is the question. This is, from in my head, a very important question. How well do you understand the field within which you are to conduct your research? If you are always on top of this question, you always know, okay, I understand this is the field. When I talk about how well you understand the field of the research, you're thinking of, what are the major thinkers? What are the most recent or up-to-date state of the field, state of research? What are the conversations in the field, debates? Or So once you establish like this why topic, but why, once you can kind of answer that why like a toddler, like, no, okay, toddlers don't answer. Once somebody can ask you and tease out the real whys of what you're committed to in a research topic, then it already kind of starts to set you up to know the field really, really well. And once you have a good command of the field, i.e., which does not mean that you have all the answers there are to know. Somebody asked you about the field and you rattle out all the books written on the topic. No, the way you know or have a good command over the field, how I would know you have a good command over the field, that you're asking the right kind of questions, not that you will be answering them. Like, you will, through your research, you may answer them. The research is obviously entry into the unknown. You're trying to find out something which is not known, right? So, but are you able to ask good questions? once you have, or it takes time and some to get there, but really commit yourself to knowing the field so that you can ask good research questions or have a good understanding. Okay, I should separate the asking your research question, i.e. you'll suffer that throughout your research project. I do not know how many times I had to reframe my research question as I was making sense of the field. That's very specific. That research question is very specific to your research. When I'm talking about knowing the research field really, really well, I'm asking what kind of questions, what kind of gaps are there in that particular research topic, in that research field, right? So understanding what's the people who are thinking, or the scholars, the thinkers, the technology, wherever that is, what kind of they are grappling with. That's what I mean by being on top of, or be having a command. How well do you understand this particular research topic? Okay. So do your research. You do research before you can do research. Then comes the supervisor. Okay. Some of you might already be given a supervisor without much choice, which happens, I'm learning at honors level. It shouldn't. I think you should still be able to speak to at least multiple people in the department you're registered, or and kind of get a good sense for what their interests are and what your research interests are, and how, and specifically what, if you already have a research topic, understanding what your supervisor thinks of your research topic, or what their level of expertise are. Right. So how to find one or two supervisors. By the way, for MAs and PhDs, if you don't already know PhD comic, that's a good comic relief when you're really dreading the whole process of conducting research and writing and analysis. That's where this strip comes from. Okay, so, and that's where the communication becomes big. So you do the first work, do your research, get a very good sense for what the research is, what the field is about, and then start speaking to potential supervisors who might, or potential supervisors, in an ideal situation, and like when there are unlimited resources and everything is perfect, you would already have research interests, and you would have already read a lot, especially during your undergraduate studies, and you'll be like, I'm really curious about this and I want to know this, and I know there are these thinkers out there who are doing some of this amazing work, and then you'll dig out from the internet their email addresses, you'll write to them and say, oh, I've read all your work, it's so amazing. You asked all these questions, but this part of this field where you're working with remains. How do I unpack this? What can I do to better understand this? And can I work with you, please? Unfortunately, this is not all research supervision scenarios go, and that's what I want to learn from you after this presentation. What kind of scenario you find yourself in when you're searching for supervisor, or when you already find yourself in a relationship. What happens is that you apply for several research positions, you get accepted, and now you don't know who to work with. You're half sure about what your research topic would be, and then you're half sure if that supervisor would really be interested, or they would persuade you out of it, and all the messiness of that. Okay, so that's where the communication starts. Start speaking to different people in the department you're accepted in, learn what their research interests are, read what they have written, especially once you have established broadly such and such would be a good supervisor for me. Oh, I attended their class, they were so inspirational, I think I can work with them. Then start the communication, book an appointment with them, and start discussing what possible topics, where you're coming from, what you would like to study. And that's when you start asking them what your supervision style is. For my research students, I would say upfront that we can't meet once the relationship is established. My policy, because of anthropology, because of we basically create data, take field notes, we write a lot. My condition in my some initially when we start supervision, there's more time. I'll try to meet my students on a weekly basis, and in a hope that on a longer term they can do their work independently. But one condition which kind of applies, they have to give me something written before we meet. We don't meet without I have something in front of me. So usually the two, actually these are quite advanced students I'm working with right now who are looking to publish their paper. They have a weekly schedule where they send me something on Thursday, we meet on Friday. They don't send me something on Thursday, we do not meet. So they know, they don't even have to ask, oh, when can we meet? They know that there's a time fixed, 12 o'clock every Friday. I've already blocked that on my calendar. So as soon as they have something, they'll email me, and then I'll read it Friday first thing in the morning, and then we discuss where things are. But it may not be the case with all different disciplines or what the priorities of the field and disciplines are. So these are the things you set up in your early meetings. And I think the big point to remember all the time, even if you're brought into a big research project, is own the project. It is not somebody else's project. It is researchers' project. So really, really own it. So whose project is it anyway? Again, back to this is a professional relationship. So just to give you a sense of how this is a PhD timeline, first year of PhD. I know we try to finish in 3 years in South Africa. This timeline speaks more to the American model of PhD, but in that American model, it's master's and PhD are kind of combined. So you can kind of actually take it as first 2 years of master's and then next 5 years, 3 years for a PhD, right? You start, you're all kind of in that ideal situation. My supervisor is a genius. And then how over time it changes and you learn more. And it doesn't just happen with a supervisor. I know, I do remember from my own PhD journey before, when I was doing my literature review, i.e. the very first year of my research, people I was reading, I thought, wow, they are just amazing. They're doing this amazing work, and this is what I wanted to do. By the time I finished my PhD, I thought, oh gosh, I can't believe this is how bad their work was, and how did I think that was so good, is so weak. And then obviously by the time there's a middle phase where you just feel so critical of every single work that is out there in your field, because you start to really see the holes because you're so embedded in it. You become quite critical of it. And then when you finish it, you kind of appreciate how hard it is. And the contribution you and others make is so small, which allows us to build. So critique doesn't feel a personal attack anymore. It's almost like a stepping stone towards understanding the things better. For my how do you call it, for my early high school and first 3 years of education, I was a maths and physics student. I know it's quite a shift. And I just remember learning those theorems. So 1 week you learn about this fantastic theorem by some physician, and the next day you learn, and this is how it failed there because another person who comes along and does something better. So science in reality is a series of failures. It's not just success, it's just failure after failure, but it's also learning that you want to fail very successfully, i.e., your work is good enough that somebody cares enough to criticize it and build on it. If your work isn't good enough to be that nobody cares to criticize it, you're actually doing nothing. So kind of working in that, bearing that in mind is really important, because even in the previous conversation we had about student supervisor relationship, one of the students mentioned, you just have to have a very thick skin because you get criticized. It's like, no, actually, this is the goal. You want to do really exceptional work that somebody cares to criticize it. So for me, that's kind of the central part of this professional relationship. Your supervisor is, or if they are not just yes, okay, they want the best. For me, the best student I would have would be someone who I treat as peer thinker. I don't want a student who thinks they are like my disciple. That would be the worst case scenario of supervision, where you have huge, outsized respect for your supervisor. You think they're just amazing and wonderful, and just by worshiping them, you'll have a PhD or master's. Please don't get yourself into something like that, because there's a life after PhD and master's. And what you're trying to do by entering into a research degree is to become independent thinkers. So what's the best scenario? So your supervisor is a peer thinker, and they are training, or they are working with you to become a colleague eventually. So even for your personal research career, that is an important understanding. Bear in mind, supervisors are not knowers of all. And if I understand the South African university context, or the research context perfectly, many of the times you don't actually get to work with the leading thinkers in that very narrow field, but you get to work. In fact, you shouldn't. If you're trying to break grounds, you should be doing something new, right? So you need to know what you want to find, so that you know what you can get out of that supervisor. So they will be approximately and be able to guide you through the discipline and the thinkers, and say, let's read this together, let's discuss it, whatever. But you want to eventually get to the stage that you own that research, and not treat the supervisor as Wikipedia or Google search engine, that you're going to ask questions and they're going to give answers, and then you're going to come out as a really great PhD. Do not depend on your supervisor 100%. Be proactive. You chart your research journey, and the better you know your strengths and weaknesses in the discipline, you can go and ask specific questions and get specific guidance. Eventually, when you're at the stage of writing your PhD or MA thesis, they are your critical readers. They'll be the first people who read your work and tell you how it comes across. There's a big difference between what you think you're writing and what your reader thinks you're saying. And a lot of the revision work we do is kind of making that gap. We think you're trying to say and what the reader actually reads much, much closer. So obviously respect your first reader. If their response is, "Oh, you're great," you need to really reconsider another new supervisor. If their response is all critique, again, you want to kind of get them down to very specifics. I should say, I find personally praise is more dangerous than the critique, but it's good if they can be very specific about what they are praising, or they can be very specific about what they're critiquing. Do not let them get away with really vague standard critiques. Oh, this is totally atheoretical, or this is not substantive. It's like, tell me precisely what is not. So these are the kind of conversations which actually help grow or build a good relationship. So from the get-go, you're not coming as a, oh, please help me, I don't know what I'm doing. You say, I know what I'm doing. These are my weaknesses. These are where I'm struggling. Would you agree to help me become the best I can be in this research, or find the best things in this research in this area? So finally, the dynamics and relationships. This is here, I'm just trying to summarize what I've shared with you. And like I say, like my philosophy, praise is more dangerous than the critique. Please don't just praise presentation or just say, oh, this was fine, great, which happens often, but engage with me on or bring this presentation, these abstract ideas, to more concrete scenarios within which you are already in a supervision relationship, or you're searching for a supervisor, or you're in a situation which is like, it's not really great. How do I negotiate? How do I get out of it? Or how do I find a better situation? Okay, so this is where I would like to hear more from you and just get into a dialogue about this. So very quickly, the takeaways from this presentation is: own your research career, know the field of your research well, know your strengths and weaknesses, where you need supervision most. So be very specific. Your supervisors will guide you through it anyway, but you don't want to be in a situation where you don't know and you're totally relying on them. That already is a start of a bad relationship, because it's a dependency relationship. You want a very solid relationship where you're very clear what your goals and expectations are, and you can put them out and understand their interest and expectations as well, how they work, how quickly they get back to students, how clearly the supervisor communicate. So again, establish a clear set of expectations, communicate clearly and candidly. Please don't play games with your supervisors. Oh, if they're not contacting me, I wouldn't contact them. I'll just hide away. I told them I'll give them a chapter, but I don't have a chapter. Don't do that. That's sabotaging your own career, right? If you are struggling to write, you're finding procrastination just dominates everything, just tell them that this is what I'm going through. They might say something. They might say, actually, one of the best things during my struggling years during PhD was somebody said, just take a break. Just go on a holiday. Don't write. Don't look at your work. And that helped me to get back in after the break to finish my work. So be very candid about where you are, and also know that your supervisor has a vested interest in your success. So it's not a one-way thing. So after me emphasizing take charge of your career, the last point I'm saying, they're not just sitting there and don't want you to succeed or just avoiding you. If you have a supervisory agreement with someone, they want to put on this, I have successfully qualified these many PhDs and MAs and honors and all that stuff. So know they are vested in your and that's why you need to be on your work, so they can kind of help you, push you towards that success. And with that, thank you so much for listening to me, and let's talk. Let's have a conversation now. Is it okay if I stop sharing? Is there anyone there? Am I talking to myself?
Yes, Prof. We are here. We are following.
Okay, good. Okay, so can I stop sharing the slides and have a conversation, answer any questions, but really think of scenarios or real life scenarios of research supervision where what kind of expectations you had from this workshop, and if I responded to some of the things you were concerned about or not, just yeah. And is it okay if I stop sharing? Just if you can say yes or put your hand up, I don't know.
Yes, Dr. Ko, you can just continue sharing whilst we engage. Okay, that's fine. Even if you stop sharing, as per your directive, we can continue with the questions and contribution session.
Okay, well, I'll share the slides with you, but the thing is, when the slides are there, I'm not able to see any of the questions in the chat.
I'll read for you the questions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the first question is,
yes.
Yeah.
Should I read it for you, Doc?
I've read it, but read it so that everybody as well, please. Yeah.
Okay. The question is coming from Lebogang. It reads, I have two questions. Apologies if this has already been touched on. The first question is, can we choose supervisors even if we do not have a topic at the moment? Then the second question is, should one intend to write next year, first semester? Can they start choosing supervisors now?
Okay, I have some questions. What Lebehang, what discipline are you in? These things kind of sometimes are discipline specific. My guess is that if you're working in a lab where some of the research is already predefined, then it's different. Then the answer is different than if you're more in a humanities or social science setup, where you do have a lot more freedom. Law, okay. So okay, great. I suppose, I mean, you have an approximate idea of your field, right? There's a slight difference between topic, like very narrow focus, what you're going to research on, and broad interest within which you want to research. So how would you choose a supervisor? Say, I mean, again, I've never studied law, so I'm making totally an hypothetical example. You want to do research in criminal law. You probably don't want somebody who has an expertise, who's never done any work in criminal law, their expertise in, I do not know, marriage, divorce, and things like that. Would that be okay? I do not know. Those are the questions you would have to answer about the specifics of who you work with. So at least if you say, yeah, my deep interest is in the criminal law, this such and such professors are in my department, they work on it, we'll talk about, yeah, I'm going to study the case of Zenzomieva, unresolved case, whatever, right? So you at least narrow down your supervisor, and then you can refine your topic. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense,
yeah.
Doc. And I also get your concerns as to narrowing it down, because in my mind, I'm thinking, let's say, for instance, I see that I have an interest in labor law. My question would now is it okay if I can start approaching supervisors as of now?
And you want to start your research next year?
Yes. I can also just start with the research this year, but as to the submissions and all of that, it's something that is going to happen next year.
Okay. Oh, absolutely. The earlier you start. So I would say labor law is your interest in start reading. I would start reading on the, I don't know, research articles on the topic you're interested in. Have just know what the seminal pieces on your topic are, like the groundbreaking, the big piece. Once you have a sense for that, once you get into it, you'll be reading a lot of nitty-gritty stuff. So you have a big picture within which you want to base your research. That will make it so much easier for you to find. So then start contacting professors in your department, especially those who have some expertise in labor law, and try to understand how they think about the topic. I'll give you an example. I do some anthropology of development is one of the areas I do teach. Many times students interested in development studies would want to do research on something policy relevant. So they want to go and look at a certain situation and say they're going to then recommend such and such policy. Anthropology of development is totally not that. And that's not how I can guide you, because to inform policy requires being positioned in political circles. I mean, how many politicians do we know who read research papers and base their policy decisions on them? They rely on experts, yes. But as a student, that should happen because your research was so good and some expert in that policy field picked it up. But as a student, I don't think you should be writing, or at least not in anthropology of development. So again, it's a discipline-specific thing. I cannot guide you or my student in the field of writing a development policy, because that's not what anthropology of development does, although it might sound like it. So it's kind of, it would be better for that student to know how I'm going to guide on that specific topic would be asking you to write very detailed sort of reports on how things are. And I would be discouraging you to write how things should be, because those how things should be answers should kind of come from how things are. But if you don't show a good understanding of how things are, you're going to you'll come up with some very distorted understanding of how things should be. So that's where the supervision in my context might break down. But student might be really adamant, no, I want to do this and make recommendations. And I'll be like, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. I have no political connections to help you with that, because policies are not made because we research. Policies are made in very different contexts, right? And there are political battles which are fought over that. So you see already, if you hear me, I have a very particular position, which might not be 100% correct, but I can't guide you into things which I don't have expertise or don't have a good sense to guide you. Maybe there's another policy experts who might be better research supervisors. So just thinking in that sort of way. Okay, we have a lot more questions. I have, and that's from, Patrick Juma. Would you like to speak? It's so nice to hear your voice rather than all of us just reading your questions. Patrick, would you consider speaking? Okay, yeah, great.
Yes, Patrick, you can unmute yourself and speak if you can.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Thank you. Yes, so I have two questions. The first one is about if you have submitted your work to your supervisor or supervisors, let's say a chapter, and then it takes too long for them to respond, and then you follow up on the same, and then there is no feedback. Is it okay to keep on reminding them, or it might appear as if you are kind of troubling them? Maybe they are too busy to come to you. So what's the best way to handle such a scenario?
Yeah,
Yes.
well, my answer is that you just ask them, don't keep reminding them, just ask them a deadline, when can they respond? What's the timeline? What is the timeline they're working with? If they don't meet that timeline, you tell them, I see that I don't have a response. The deadline was yesterday. Can you give me a new one? And if they still don't make it, you need to speak to HOD or someone else and look for another supervisor. Do not waste your time. But be reasonable, right? You give them 1 or 2 chances. There are times I do get late in giving my response to my students. All I do is normally they receive these long sorry messages. I'm so sorry, there's something this, that is going on. Can I get back to you by then? Or sometimes I actually give them, it takes less time. It depends on the level of work. So that could be another strategy. Some chapters, some writing needs more time. They're time intensive. And that's why it takes long. So first thing, what I usually do is scan through the level of work in terms of feedback I'm getting into. And I see that if I'm not going to be able to not going to be able to give you feedback within, because it's just a lot of work and it sits there. And then I'll say, okay, can you, I'll ask for a shorter version or something like that, or just say, I've read your work, let's discuss it. It's too that actually have done that, because it just felt like to give a proper feedback requires a lot more time, especially typing out. Let's just have a quick meeting. I'll tell you what I'm seeing, fix that. Sometimes it's just language. Sometimes students send you things which are just so poorly written. And then I'll return and say, hey, you need to improve. So I'm showing, kind of giving more benefit of doubt to the supervisor. But really, if there's radio silence, you need to speak to someone else and say, there's radio silence. It's been 2 months, or I do not know, calculate your time, whatever you agreed on to start with. You're not, if they have given you a deadline and they don't meet it, you're not harassing them. You're just calling upon the agreement you've had. Then if that doesn't happen, you just say, look, this is, I'm not getting feedback. Time is ticking. Either I need a new supervisor or somebody else has to read it or clarify what's happening. But please do not waste your time by being fearful that, oh, is a supervisor is going to ruin my career if I just don't play with those fears. We had in our departmental meeting, a student who didn't get any feedback for 8 months, had to re-register. That's unacceptable. The first question is like, why are you waiting that long? Just no, that's outrageous. That's unacceptable. Just take action, speak to someone, be that HOD or another colleague, depending on what hierarchies and positions you're negotiating. Be smart about that, but do not let them waste your time. So that's the answer to your first question. And your second question is about 2 supervisors. Oh yeah,
Yes.
that's a challenging one. Well, the answer is, who do you believe more? Who's more engaged? This happens. This happened with my own co-supervision situation. And it's actually, I have experienced both. I had 2 PhD supervisors and I have co-supervised, and the contradictory, and it's again a bit of a tactful thing, right? When this happened while I was a doctoral student, I think one of my, which one is reading your work properly and which one isn't, okay? As a student, again, that's why I keep saying that's the big theme of my presentation. Own your research. Where you're getting a good feedback. Work with the feedback which is the supervisor who's doing your work more closer to where you are. Don't be persuaded. Just don't be manipulated by praise. Please don't. That praise in academic work is the best way to sabotage your career. It's like, saying that you cannot get better. So be very careful with that. But your topic, please remain committed to it and decide on which which supervisor is actually giving you valuable, like more proximately closer to what you're doing. What did I do when I saw my student was getting contradictory things? Very politely, I just, in a three-way meeting, asked, how did the other co-supervisor make sense of this? And in my situation, it was really challenging because he just said that he totally agreed with me. I was like, no, how could you agree with me and give such a contradictory thing? I do not know. These are human relationships. So basically, for me, I did the student, and that's what I would do. You're an independent thinker. What do you think? Think about it. Is it making sense for you? And then work with the critique. Again, which faculty or discipline are you from?
I'm in the humanities philosophy department.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, humanities, philosophy, that's art of persuasion. Who are you more persuaded by? And your work is about persuading the readers of your work, right? You work with who you find more, whose argument you find more persuasive, and work with it. I mean, is there another tension that you're not sharing here? Would you like to?
No. I was just asking just to be ready because previously during my MA, I had one supervisor. So this time around, I have two. So I know cases whereby some colleagues of mine, they had two, and then there were these contradictory kind of feedback. So I'm just asking just to prepare myself in case something happens.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And I say, I should also add that if the feedback is contradictory, but you can already see, you can't really see which one is persuasive or leaves you more confused, just look for a third person from your faculty or outside. Please do not be because you're reading lots of thinkers. If there's a living thinker, whose work you find like it's strong, it's good, you're working, email them, say, would you please read this work? I've been processing these ideas and I'm very unclear. Don't share the feedback with them. Just say, so you get another completely outside perspective. Most of the time, scholars are quite generous, and especially they're very, I mean, if somebody, as you know, I write about sports. If somebody writes to me with their work on sports and are really looking for a feedback, even if I don't know them, this happens often, I would be very curious to read their work, even, and give my input. That's my own curiosity. How is everybody else thinking in the field I write about? So, yeah. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
And I hope
Yeah,
that helps you
thank
negotiate your journey.
Dr. Ko,
Yeah.
we have a question from Chieza.
Yeah.
The question read, at PhD level, is my supervisor obliged to assist me with financial commitments for my fieldwork if I have financial challenges?
Oh, I'm not qualified to answer that. I do not know. I really do not know. Maybe the research capacity development, what's the policies here? Do you know? I mean, I know there are supervisor linked bursaries. Yeah, I don't think, I personally don't think it should be, these obligations should be put to supervisors. For one big reason is that this is a professional relationship where you're both working towards intellectual, advancement or in a field. And the moment you're just creating more, what do you call, more dynamics between yourself. You might be, then you're obliged, things go bad, super's like, I paid for all this and now you behave. So you don't want that. You want the focus of your research, that relationship, the intellectual side of the things. That's my take on it. Does the RCD have any response to that?
From the RCD aside, I can say that within the postgraduate school, we have the postgraduate fund management unit that deals with internal and external bursaries, but I'm not aware of the obligation that it is an obligation for the supervisor to provide that. But also answering from experience, I think it's a conversation that you should be having with your supervisor, because also from my experience during the time when I was still doing a master's and PhD, if I have any financial sort of challenges that I'll be having, I used to interact with my supervisors, let them know, and in most cases they were open to funding research related activities. So I think it's a conversation that you should be having with your supervisor. That's the relationship that Dr. Ko has just maybe presented on. But you're also welcome to visit the postgraduate fund management unit and learn of the kind of support and both internal and external that they have, which maybe possibly could be channeled towards the request of the student. Thank you.
Okay. I hope that helps, Chitsa. You are in our department, right? Anthropology.
The next question, Dr. Ko, is from Murang. It says, do we get allocated supervisors or one should apply for one? If one should apply, what is the process? I'm a first year master's in education by research student and do not have a supervisor yet.
Yeah. Well, in the presentation, I'm basically encouraging you to go find yourself a supervisor. How do they do that in the education faculty? I do not know. I would encourage you, if you should already have some sense for your research, go and speak with the staff, the professors and the senior lecturers in your department, share your interest and see if they would like to supervise you. I did not mention that all supervisors also end up having have limited capacity. They can't take, if everybody has the same interest and want to work with the same person, that sometimes doesn't work either, because they just simply have too many students. So in that case, sometimes you may not get your first choice supervisor. But really, I look in our department, the honor students were just allocated to make sure everybody has an even workload. But when it comes to masters and PhDs, students, so I'm MA coordinator in my department. I'll just make sure everybody has a supervisor. Most of the students actually had a supervisor. I just called them up, hey, like, do you have a supervisor? Are you all sorted? And they were. For my personal interest, I did send them like a survey just to help them think through who should they work with, encourage them to look at the profiles of all the faculty members, all the departmental members, and say, think carefully, who would you like to work with? That's your first step, really. Look at the profiles of people in your department. Who would you like to work with? What topic are you interested in? And then just sit down and have a conversation. I wouldn't wait to be allocated. I would be more proactive about it. But again, then you are proactive, you reach out, and they'll say, oh no, we do the allocations, just wait, we are busy with it. And then you get your answer there. Is that okay, Muragi?
Mrangi, you can unmute yourself and talk. Another question, Doc, from George. Any guidance for a part-time PhD student out of seat regarding finding a supervisor and co-supervisor and establishing a relationship? How should a student handle not getting clear guidance, similar to what you tell your students submit something, and we meet Fridays. I know supervisors have different styles.
Yes, George, you're right. Supervisors have different style. Those are the conversations you want to have beforehand. Part-time out of seat student of you have to be like super proactive because you know your working timetable, right? So you need to find ways to fit your PhD into your other life commitments, right? So yeah, again, like in this day and age where lots of things can happen online. For example, this presentation in 10, 15 years ago, we'll all be sitting in the same room and discussing this. But today we can just have the full conversation from where we are. So I do not know which department or which discipline you're from. You go to the UJ, that department website page, look at all the profiles, study carefully, look who you would like to work closely with. Don't just stick with one, have at least a list of 3, email them. Even if sometimes you might find that your topic is not like nobody has full on expertise on it, go with what kind of methods they use, or go with what kind of region they work with. So there are many different ways to find overlaps. And then you discuss exactly what you said. You ask clearly, flatly, what's your supervision style? How do you do this? I'm a part-time student. I can't meet every week. I can only do this, that, and the other. How would you fit me into your schedule? How busy are you? Things like that. And speak to 3 to 5 people and then decide, go back and say, um, first contact the person you really would like to work with. Say, we had a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Would you like, are you able to supervise me? If they say yes, you're done, just thank the other 4 or that they gave you time and you have selected this supervisor. Or if they say no, then you go to your second choice and then ask them. Many times supervisors can say no because they simply have too much on their plate. And they're just being realistic that if they take one more, they wouldn't be able to give you the time you deserve. So try, yeah. So work around that. And sometimes 2 supervisors might be the right idea. You say, oh, that first choice supervisor is just, she is like the top person in the field I want to research. I really want to work with this person. And they just said, oh, I don't have time. Then you basically say, would you be a co-supervisor? Because there will be, I wouldn't bother you with everything, but there are specific arguments I'll be working with down the line where I'll really appreciate your guidance. Would you read my work? So these are the kind of negotiations you want to have during your search for supervisors or establishing that relationship. But please do speak to more than one person. Don't just speak to one person and say, yeah, let's do this. And then you have no idea how different people work. And that's also useful because down the line, if the relationship doesn't work out, you have a relationship with other people who you spoke to. You can go back and say, I thought this would be great, but all through the process of my research, my interests are changed. And now there isn't any real conversation that's happening between my chosen supervisor and me. I need to change. Can you help me? So that also, like, that's foreseeing things can happen, which might be helpful for you in the longer run. So that's kind of my advice. Yeah, supervisors have different style. You have to have supervisors whose style you would like. I must say, I was, as a more older student, I was more independent when, especially during my fieldwork, and I had to go through a change of supervision because after a while it really felt like the supervisor I had, he just totally did not understand what I was doing. I mean, and there was a lot of upset, but what do you do? It's a delicate thing, you know. professors have big ego. They are the experts of such and such field. But it is also true that you will, as when you're doing your PhD, should be and will be more on top of the literature or what's happening in your field than any professor would be. And if you're not, then you're doing something wrong. PhDs, early PhDs are the ones who are like the best read. I think that's when, during my PhD, I do read quite a bit. Obviously, that's the demands of the job. But one of the big frustrations of having a full-time job is I don't get to read as much as I would like to, and that's your advantage. That's the pleasure of doing a PhD. So you'll be on top of things. So if you're always on top of things, changing supervision would be so much easier because you can really argue your case. You say, well, when I started with the supervisor, these were the things we were working with. I've just dropped this topic, and that topic. And now there's nothing in common what I'm doing. And there's another person who I need to work with. Can I do that? And that was exactly what happened with my own PhD. That I changed supervision, and it was so much better for it because I got the right kind of critical reader. By the time you start writing, you want critical readers. It's not somebody saying, do this, do that. It's somebody saying, oh, I read your work. This makes sense. And that totally doesn't make sense. Have you thought about this? And that's the kind of, it becomes more intensive at the other end of the supervision. Again, I hope that helps. Please feel free to let me know if you have other questions.
Muranki, if you still have something to say, you can also unmute yourself and say it.
I just wanted to say thank you. This is George. Yeah, thank you. That really helps. Yeah, being part-time and out of seat and not knowing where to start and having spoken to just one supervisor. So that's really good advice you have given me there. Thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure. I wish you speak to many more. Don't agree on one. And even if you do, still speak with more people, please. It's good for you. Any other thoughts, questions, scenarios you would like to discuss? We can think through together.
Dr. Ko, there is no more questions in the chats, and let's give the attendees an opportunity to ask any further questions if they have, or any contributions that they would want to make before we proceed to the conclusion of the session.
Sounds good.
If you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can type the question in the chat box. Okay, it seems like there's no more any further questions. Given that, I would like to once again thank the students for attending and for all those who participated in this session. We appreciate you honoring the session, and also thanking our facilitator for all the hard work, and the time and effort that she had put in preparing and facilitating this session. I would also like to remind you that your feedback is important to us. So I have posted the feedback form again for your access in the chat box. Fill the survey so that you can receive a certificate of attendance, and also for us to be able to get feedback on the usefulness of these sessions, and also for our reporting purposes. For more information about the RCD, you can visit our website on www.uj.ac.za/postgraduate school/research capacity development. And for any queries, you can contact the RCD on rcdinquiries@uj.ac.za. We thank you for supporting the RCD unit. And with your permission, Dr. Ko, if you can allow me to end the session.
Sure, sure. Well, thank you everyone for making time and attending. And I was wondering, I was also going to say thank you to Prof. Tanusha for being here. And I was hoping that you might have something more to say, but I don't want to put you on the spot. But that's about it. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ko. Let me just also say to you that the recording for this session and the slides for this workshop, they will be shared on our Moodle platforms within 3 to 5 working days from the day of this workshop. And I would like to wish you a great day further. Thank you. And I'm now ending the session.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.